Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. My name is Haley and today we are doing my January wrap up. So in the month of January I read 13 books. Let me get my journal out. My chair does not want to cooperate today. Let's see. I read 13 books in the month of January. And here they all are. So we're just going to do a little wrap up today. But first, let's do the stats. So in the month of January, I read a total of 5,460 pages. 13 books, and my average rating was a 4.5, which is actually really good. In my genre breakdown, nonfiction, I read 1. Dark romance, I read 2. Romantasy, I read 4. I read 2 YA and 4 romance. So without further ado, let's just get into the books that I read. All right, so first up, I read Kill Switch by Penelope Douglas. This is a dark romance. It's part of the Devil's Night series. There are 4 books in this series. This is Damien's book. Damon. This is Damon's book. This book follows a group of 4 friends that in high school they had this thing called Devil's Night where they, on Halloween, they would all wear masks and go out and play pranks in the neighborhood. And this is following them. They do have flashbacks into when they were in high school, but it follows them as they are adults. The first one is Corrupt, and it starts off where they have gone to jail for some reason and they are getting out, and we start following their story from there. Each one of them gets a book and a love interest. This is Summer and Damon's book, and so I gave this 3.5 stars. This series, I have read a lot of Penelope Douglas's work, but I just don't think this series is for me. I'm not exactly in love with this series. So will I finish it? Yes, because I only have one more book, but it is what it is. So we started off with not so great, but kind of great, I guess. So Kill Switch by Penelope Douglas. All right, then the next book we read was Slaying the Vampire Conqueror by Carissa Broadbent. This is in the same world as the Crowns of Nyaxia series, so Serpent, the Wings of Night, Ashes and the Star-Cursed King, those books. But you do not have to read those books to read this one. I think this is like a complete standalone. I actually really enjoyed this. So we're following our 2 main characters. Our main character, Selena, is a seer. So she has given her eyes to her goddess, and so she wears a like blindfold kind of thing 24/7, but that does not mean she cannot see. Going into this, I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna like this, like how is that gonna work out, but it worked out very well. And so she is given a task to kill the vampire conqueror, and so she infiltrates her way into his army and into his and makes her way and becomes his seer, and we follow their story from there. I really enjoyed it. I gave this 4 stars. Then we finished a series by reading The Fae Princes by Nikki St. Crow. This is a 4 little, I don't know if I'd call it novellas, but they're awful short. This is a little 4-book series. It is a reverse harem. It is a dark Peter Pan retelling, and we are following Wendy's like great-great-granddaughter, who ends up going to Neverland because every 18 years Peter Pan comes and steals away a darling girl because he has lost something and he thinks they are the key to finding it. So we follow their story from there. I can't really tell you much about this one because it is the last one in the series, but I gave this 4 stars. I would recommend if you need something that, like, if you're trying to meet your reading goal, and these are really, really fast books. Like, I read them, all of these, I believe I read in a day, so. Then we continued on with the Sacred Stones trilogy and read A Promise of Peridot, however you say it. And this one we are following our main character, Auren, and she is a quote-unquote, I guess you would say, a healer. And in the first one, she gets taken away into the Onyx Court. And this is just the 2nd book in this series. Y'all, this series is so good. There's shadow daddies, there's dragons, like, it's so good. I have the 3rd one, as you saw, on my TBR for the month of February, so I plan on finishing this series out, but I highly recommend. It's equal parts, fantasy, it's romantasy, obviously, but I'm doing a very terrible job of describing these books today. But So our main character, Kane, is our shadow daddy. I love him so much. But anyway, I highly recommend this series if you have not started it. Then we read a nonfiction book. We read, I just whacked myself in the face. We read Dinner for Vampires by Bethany Joy Lenz. This is her memoir, and it follows her time when she was filming One Tree Hill and the kind of like what she was going through in her life during this time. I really, really enjoyed this. I have no rating for this. If I haven't said it already, I don't rate memoirs just because I don't feel like I feel icky rating someone's life experience. You know what I mean? But I highly recommend, especially if you're a One Tree Hill fan. And I highly recommend the audiobook. There are like little snippets from like James Lafferty, his voice is in this. Chad Michael Murray's voice is in this. And then I forget his name, but the guy that plays Dan Scott, his voice is in the audiobook, just like where she's recounting conversations she had with them. But yeah, I highly recommend. I especially recommend the audiobook. Then we have a book that I have been putting off forever, and that is Heartless Hunter by Kristen Cicerelli. This is it's marketed as YA, but I think it's like merging on to new adult. So this is a romantasy, and it is about a witch and a witch hunter. When we open up, we are living in this world where witches are no longer wanted. The witch queens used to rule this land, but they were overtaken, and now people are hunting out these witches and killing them. And so we are following our main character, and what is her? Y'all, I remember plot points, but I don't remember names for some reason. So we are following our main character, Rune. And she is a witch. And in this world, there is a character called the Crimson Moth that is going through and saving these witches and getting them, like those that have been caught. She's like helping them escape. And Rune is our Crimson Moth. And our male main character, Gideon, has made it his life's goal to find the Crimson Moth. Well, little do they know, they start working together. Their paths cross, and she knows that he is after her, but he has no idea who she is. So we follow their story from there. I really enjoyed this. I am really excited to get my hands on the second one, Rebel Witch. It was my one of my book of the month picks for February, so I'm really excited for my box to get here because when it gets here, I'm gonna be reading it. I gave this 4.5 stars. I highly enjoyed it. I highly recommend. And then we read Variation by Rebecca Yarros. I have never read a romance by Rebecca Yarros. I've only read like her Fourth Wing series. So when I picked this up, I had no idea what to expect, but it highly surprised me. I really enjoyed this. This is, I guess you would say, like childhood friends to strangers to lovers, I guess. So we're following our two main characters, Allie and Hudson. Allie is a ballerina. Hudson is a Coast Guard rescue swimmer. And in this story, Allie's family has a vacation home in his hometown, and it does flashbacks from when they were kids to now. And she ends up with an injury and comes back to this vacation home to kind of recover. And as they're there, his niece shows up at her door, and it like completely takes off from there. I really enjoyed like the mystery aspect of this. I enjoyed the romance. Oh, it was so good. This is the easiest 5 stars I have ever given. So I cannot wait to read more of Rebecca Yarros' contemporary work. So yeah, I have 2 more of her books on my shelves that I want to get to that are like her contemporary romances. So highly recommend. And then we read The Rom-Commers by Catherine Center. I read The Bodyguard by Catherine Center, and I highly enjoyed it. So I already knew that I was probably going to like this going into this. So in this book, we are following our 2 main characters. She is and I'm telling y'all, I forget names. So we are following Emma and Charlie. Emma is an aspiring screenwriter, and Charlie is already a screenwriter. Well, her friend comes to her, who just happens to be his agent, and is like, he has written this romance, and it is terrible, and we need you to come in and like help him write it out and make it better and finish it. And we follow them from there. It is so good. I found myself cracking up. Both of them, they each have like I would check trigger warnings because they both do have some baggage that, is talked about in this story. But yeah, I gave this 4 stars. I highly recommend. It is closed door, so if that is something you're looking for, that a nice rom-com with no spice, I highly recommend this one. I did my Iron Flame reread. I don't think it needs any more explanation. 5 stars. I did the graphic audio. If you have not listened to the graphic audio, do it. It is so freaking good. I would say if you're trying to follow along in the physical copy as you're listening to the graphic audio, it does skip like a few descriptive things. Sometimes it skips some dialogue, like instead of saying so and so laughed, you'll just hear them laugh on the audio. It is not hard to follow along. I did not find it hard in the least bit, but yeah, this is the second book in the Fourth Wing series. If you have not heard of it, where have you been? Fourth Wing is following Violet Soaringale, and she was always meant to be a scribe, but last minute her mom says, nope, you're going to be a writer, and she makes it into the writer's quadrant to become a dragon rider, and we follow her from there. All I gotta say, Xaden, I love me some Xaden. And then I read Onyx Storm. If you cannot tell, I highly enjoyed it. So this is the third book in the Fourth Wing series. I'm not going to repeat myself by explaining about what the series is about again, but I gave this 5 stars. I cannot believe yes, I did get a pretty sprayed edge one, but I also wanted just a plain one so that I could annotate so I didn't mess up the sprayed edges. But I cannot believe we have to wait 2 years for the next one. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. I really don't. And then after my Onyx Storm hangover, I was trying to find something and failing. But I read Lost and Lassoed by Lila Sage. This is the Rebel Blue Ranch series. The first one is Done and Dusted. So this is following Emmy from the first one, her older brother, Gus, her older brother Gus, and her best friend Teddy. And Gus is a single dad, and he co-parents with her mom, obviously, but her mom is off doing something for work over the summer, and he is a full-time single dad. And so Teddy comes in halfway through the summer to be like a part-time nanny, and we follow the story from there. Obviously, I loved it. I gave it 4 stars. Highly recommend this series. They're easy reads. They're really short. Highly recommend. Then I carried on with my Throne of Glass reread. There's just something about seeing a finished book with all the tabs. But I read Air of Fire. The first time I read with the series, I wasn't in love with it. I remember the first time I read this book, going to like the different POVs. I'm not going to spoil anything by telling you like who all is in this book, but going to the different POVs. Some of the POVs I was like skimming because I did not care. But through the second reread, like, I loved it. Obviously, I gave it 5 stars. I'm not going to tell you anything about this book because I don't want to spoil, but if you have not heard of Throne of Glass, where have you been? We are following our main character, Selena Sardathian, and she starts out in this slave prison where she's working in the salt mines, and the king and the prince and the king's guard comes to her and was like, we're having this competition to be the king's champion. If you win, you'll work for him for a few years and then you'll have your freedom. So she comes and we follow them from there. I will say the first two, like, if I read Assassin's Blade first the second time around, and I highly recommend doing that if you have not read the series. But after Crown of Midnight, this story, like in this book, it takes on a whole new plot. It goes like into this whole new area and everything. And if you do not like the first 2 books, at least try this one because it does get better with this one. I highly recommend. And then the last book we read this month was The True Love Experiment by Christina Lauren. This has been sitting on my shelf. What month pick was this? Doesn't say. But this has been sitting on my shelf for probably over a year. And I finally got to it, and it was really cute. So I have not read The True Love Experiment, which is the book that comes before this. It is a series of interconnected standalones. So there was some stuff that it talked about that I was like, if I had read the first one, it would make more sense, but I did not feel completely and totally lost. So we are following our main character, Fizzy. Her name is Felicity, but they call her Fizzy. And she is a romance author. And our main male character, Connor, he is like a producer that produces like documentaries and things like that. Well, his like the company he works for comes to him and they're like, we want to do like a live dating show and we're going to put you in charge of it. Well, he comes to her and he's like, hey, can you be like the lady on this dating show? And then we follow them from there. I enjoyed this. It was so much fun. I gave this 4 stars and it was so fun. It was like, they call the story the True Love Experiment, but it's like The Bachelor, like, I don't know. It was so fun. It was so fun. If you like things like that, then I would highly recommend this. But yeah, so those are the 13 books that we read in the month of January. Thank you so much for making it this far. If you did, leave me a comment down below. What is a book that you read in the month of January? If you don't know what to read, then just leave me this emoji down there. And I just thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, I could get it out in a minute. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Join my bookish community. It would make my day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one.